Welcome everyone to tonight's webinar on overcoming mindless eating. This webinar is presented to you through True Health Diagnostics. True Health Diagnostics is an innovative diagnostic company that provides the most comprehensive diagnostic tests to prevent cardiovascular disease and other chronic illnesses. We're passionate about helping your provider to identify, reverse disease, and even prevent disease. And so we offer you these webinars as a means to empower you also to become healthier. My name is Terry Close. I will be your presenter for tonight. I am a clinical health consultant and have been in this position for the past 6 years, although I have been working in the healthcare field for over 30 years now. And I'm also very passionate about health, wellness, and prevention. Now, we all know that not paying attention can be dangerous. And today it seems even more so with the use of cell phones and driving. But what about not paying attention when we're eating? Maybe it only results in doing something silly, but there are other hazards of mindless eating, especially if it's your daily style of eating. It can cause you to have a wrong relationship to food. It can cause body weight problems and even issues with your self-esteem. In tonight's webinar, I'm going to be talking first of all of what is mindless eating. I'll be giving you a little bit of research on mindless eating, and some of the techniques in which I'll be discussing are based on research as well. I'll be teaching you about using the mindful eating cycle as it pertains to both mindless and mindful eating. I'll give you several techniques that you can use to be more mindful, and then again we'll conclude with a mindful eating exercise. We should have time at the end for that mindful eating exercise, so again, if you haven't already gotten your piece of chocolate, go ahead and get that. And we should also have plenty of time to take questions. Mindless eating is eating as if you're on autopilot. When you're on autopilot, you're not really paying attention to what is going on around you or in you. It could be that you're distracted by what's going on around you, or again, something inside your head. Maybe it's your emotions, maybe it's all the plans and everything that you have to do. But either way, you're just not paying attention. How do you know if you're eating in a mindful way or a mindless way? Well, I want you to try and recall what you ate for the past 24 hours. Can you remember what you ate? How about how it tasted? What about the flavor or the texture? Do you know what led you up to eating what you did? If you can't recall this information, you probably had some degree of mindless eating. As I said, I've been in the healthcare field for over 30 years, of which most of them have been as a dietitian. So I've seen it all. I like to think I've seen it all, heard it all, and probably even done it myself. So this is what I'm going to give you what a typical mindless day might look like. You wake up, no time to eat breakfast. So on your way as you're driving through work, you go through a fast food drive-through. You grab whatever you can get there. You get to work, maybe you pass by somebody's desk or the break room, and there happens to be a box of donuts. So on your way to your desk, you grab a donut as well. And you eat that while you're going through your emails and what you have to do for the day. At lunch, too busy to go to lunch, so instead you eat something at your desk while you're working on your computer. In the afternoon, you might eat a snack, either again at your desk or maybe on the way home. You get home, you come in through the kitchen, and there on the kitchen counter are all kinds of snacks sitting out, cookies, cakes, maybe the kids' breakfast cereal boxes are sitting there. And so you grab something on your way through the kitchen. Then dinner is in front of the TV. In the evening, maybe you're catching up on things you have to do at home, email correspondence again, and while you're doing that, you're snacking again. And then finally, you sit down to watch TV, taking your favorite snack with you, meanwhile falling asleep while you're watching TV. You might even wake up to have a bedtime snack before you go to bed again. So maybe I have you laughing by now, and it does seem quite funny, but that's, I guess, my almost mindless eating taken to the extreme. So what's the cause of all this? Well, let's first consider some research on what's going on in our heads. Now, this is a brain teaser you might have seen before. It's called the size contrast illusion. Now, even if you've seen it before, you know the answer. Both middle circles are the same size, but no matter how much you tell yourself that and you know that to be true, your brain is still telling you differently. And that's because our brain uses background objects for estimating size. Now, the food industry uses this to their advantage. There's a frozen yogurt store near where I live, and they have only one size bowls, large. And so you fill them up yourself. And so, again, the bowl is so big that if you only put a little bit of yogurt in there, it doesn't look like very much. And even though I really try to just put a little bit in there, it always amazes me when I go to weigh it how much it actually weighs. Now, this concept works in another way as well. If you think you ate less than typical, you'll be hungry. But if you think you ate more than what you usually eat, you'll be full. So keep that in mind as well. Now, environmental cues impact how much we eat as well. In a study that was conducted by professors at Cornell, some participants were given soup to eat from a normal bowl, and some ate soup from a self-refilling bowl. Now, those who ate from those bottomless bowls consumed 73% more, yet they were not any more satisfied than the other participants. And also, they underestimated by how many calories they ate more than the others. So they underestimated how much they ate by 140 calories versus those eating from the normal bowls underestimated how much they ate by only 32 calories. So if you tend to rely on visual cues to determine how much you're going to eat and if you're full, you're likely to overeat. Our thinking can also influence our eating and our mindless eating. A lot of times we think that we eat according to our feelings, but actually our feelings are preceded by our thoughts and then our feelings, and that determines our action. So your distorted thinking patterns can also start you on a cycle of bad habits and mindless eating. A lot of this will determine what you think about yourself and your relationship to food. Now, I've listed on this slide some of the most typical, I guess, thinking thoughts. The first one there is like a black and white. You think it is one way or the other. You're either on a diet or you're off a diet. You're eating good or you're eating bad. You're eating right or you're not eating right. The second one, if you have a lot of guilt and shame, then that can lead you to labeling yourself and lead to poor self-esteem. Now, blaming is rather interesting because if you have a lot of blame, you never look at the ways that you contribute to your mindless eating or your eating problems, and that can lead you to miss opportunities to be responsible and to make changes. Negative thinking can cause you to dwell on the negative and make it more difficult to make changes. There's also people who are impulsive. They act without thinking or they eat without thinking, and compulsive thinkers who are driven to eat. In his book, Mindless Eating, Dr. Lansing warns his readers to beware of the health halo, and I want to warn you of this as well, and that is the tendency to eat more if you think it's good for you. So you might not think of this as a faulty thought pattern, but it also can contribute to mindless eating just as much as the negative thoughts. So the problem with mindless eating is it can grow into mindless bad habits, which can grow into day in and day out mindless eating. So if you are eating mindlessly because of signs and cues around you that tell you to eat, again, that's going to develop into some of these bad habits. So in order to get control over your mindless eating, you can be more in tune to the cues around you. And also I'm going to talk to you how to be more in tune with the cues within you. Before I go on, I wanted to touch on the last habit there, and that's donuts for A's are rewarding for good behavior. And again, down here, one of the donut shops will give students a donut for every A that they had on their report card. And I once took my children there, and after doing this presentation, I decided maybe this is not such a good, that's not such a good idea, because I don't want to start them on a pattern of mindless eating for rewarding themselves for good behavior, which again can be a mindful eating pattern as well. Now, the concept of mindfulness is not new. It's been around for a long time, maybe even since ancient times. Mindfulness not only applies to eating, mindfulness is where you deliberately pay attention, non-judgmentally, in the present moment. Mindfulness encompasses both internal processes and your external environment. In mindfulness, it's where you're aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical sensation, again, in the present moment. With practice, mindfulness cultivates the possibility of freeing yourself of reactive habitual patterns of thinking, feeling, acting, and eating. So it's going to promote balance, choice, wisdom, and acceptance of what is. I want you to kind of look at the cartoon here if you haven't, and I think that depicts the difference between mindfulness and just a mind full. And if we have our mind full of distractions, again, it's very difficult for us to be mindful eaters. So what's mindful eating? Well, what mindful eating isn't, it's not just eating slowly. So just slowing down, that will be a technique I'm going to talk about, but it's much more than that. When you eat mindfully, you're going to engage your brain in all your senses. You're going to think before you eat, pay attention while you're eating to the food and what it is doing for your body. So it's not just what you eat, but why you're eating it. And it's not just about how much you eat, but enjoying it. This mindful eating cycle is from the book titled Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat by Dr. Michelle May. And we'll be exploring this in quite detail because it's a good framework to help evaluate your eating style and to help you to become a mindful eater. Many people believe that their problems with food stem from what they eat. But instead, if you use the mindful eating cycle, this is going to allow you to evaluate other aspects of eating that you might not have considered before that could contribute to eating or health problems. And also then using this mindful eating cycle will empower you to become a mindful eater. The first concept we'll talk about is why you eat. Now this actually addresses really what your relationship with food is. Do you love to eat? And a lot of people tell me they love to eat. Well, I love to eat too, and that can be okay. But really, why are you eating? Hopefully it's more than just because you love the taste of food. Think about, what is food supposed to do for you? What do you want food to do for you? Food does provide us with energy, and food provides you with vitamins and minerals to nourish and keep your bodies running. Another reason to eat is because you feel hungry, and that is really one of the drivers for why you might eat. Again, there's a lot of wrong reasons for why you eat, and you will want to explore those. As I said, hunger is supposed to be the reason of why we're supposed to eat. Physical hunger and not emotional hunger. So this slide will show you the difference between the physical hunger and emotional hunger. A lot of times, because of the abundance of food around us, we've really lost touch with our hunger cues. We may not, we just always might be eating or grazing, and if in that the cases, you might not even be experiencing hunger. But hunger, physical hunger usually is going to start gradually, instead of emotional hunger, which is all of a sudden. When they say that physical hunger strikes below the neck, what that means is you're going to feel something usually in your stomach, maybe a gnawing, a growling, an emptiness. Sometimes you might even feel a little bit lightheaded or weak. Maybe notice that you just can't concentrate as well. Whereas your emotional hunger will again come on suddenly, unrelated to time. Maybe you even just finished eating not too long ago and you'll feel like you want something more. And so that is not physical hunger. Physical hunger, again, goes away after you eat. You're going to be satisfied. But because emotional hunger has nothing to do with your physical sensation of needing to eat, you're going to still have those feelings. And unfortunately, eating for emotional issues can sometimes lead to guilt and shame. Whereas really, if you're eating because of physical hunger, it ought to lead you to feeling satisfied and content. As I said, we live in a food-abundant world. Food is everywhere. It tends to be at most social events that we probably go to. And so a lot of times we eat because the food is there and not, again, because we're hungry. A lot of times we might eat according to the time. Oh, it's noon, maybe it's time to, for lunch now. Instead of, again, relying on our internal cues of hunger. Maybe sometimes you might eat based on your feelings, again, instead of that internal cue, and we're going to talk more about that. Now, what you eat, as I said, a lot of people think sometimes the problem is just as far as what you eat, and this is not really a program about what you eat, but for you to explore, again, what you're choosing to eat. And there's a lot of questions, again, that you can ask yourself. But if you've been on diets, been a chronic dieter, you might have a lot of guilt and feelings of deprivation, which can, again, lead you to make wrong choices about food. Or maybe if you are, again, have been a dieter, then there's a certain way that you eat. What you eat is different for when you're on the diet versus off your diet. And so, again, you might not listen to your body of what it really needs. If you're an emotional eater or a stress eater, again, you're choosing foods based on those cues for comfort rather than, again, what your body needs. But you need to realize that you have the power to choose, and mindful eating is going to cultivate the wisdom in you so you will know what you need to eat instead of somebody telling you what it is you can and you can't have or should not have. Now, how you eat encompasses, again, your physical environment and also, again, the style of your eating. So maybe you just dive head in and you just gobble your food down really quickly, again, not paying attention to how hungry you are, and you eat it fast. And sometimes maybe we have had situations where we don't really have a lot of time to eat. And again, so that has caused us to eat fast a lot. Again, what are you doing while you're eating? Where are you? Is there something else going on? TV, computers, and then where do you eat? Do you eat all over the house? Do you eat in bed even, maybe, instead of in the kitchen or at a kitchen table? Now, as far as how much we eat, is most people really have no idea of what a serving size is, and that's sometimes arbitrary anyways. You might determine how much to eat based on what a package says, the serving sizes. But again, the serving sizes on packages usually have grown over the years. For example, bread used to always be sliced in a 1 ounce slice, and now most types of bread are sliced so they're 1.5 ounces. Or maybe you decide how much to eat and you keep eating until all the food is gone. or until your plate is clean. Or maybe if you're eating while watching TV, you eat until your TV show is over. As far as where you eat, again, that is not where you are physically eating, but this concept is about how your body is going to use the food, rather the location of where you're going to eat. So with this concept, you are going to consider what types of activities you will be doing after you're eating. So again, think about it. If you're going to be more active, then you would eat differently than if you're going to be engaged in a sedentary activity. So with this concept, you want to match your energy intake with your energy expenditure. So are you going to be sitting down watching TV for the evening? Or maybe you get home late and you're starving. You're going to go to bed, but you eat a full meal anyways. So that's not matching your energy intake with your energy expenditure. However, if you're going to be going to the gym, then that is going to be different, and you'll want to consider all of that when you're making your food choices. We make about 200 food decisions daily. That's a lot of decisions to make. Now, most of them you can't even explain. But what if you made these decisions mindfully? Even more so, what if you were able to control some of your environment so you wouldn't have to make so many food decisions, and you wouldn't have to rely on this concept of willpower? Because if you're having to make so many decisions every day, that willpower is maybe doomed to fail you at one point or another. So in order to do that, you're going to need to eat more mindfully. The first technique I want to talk about is, again, stopping and thinking. So stop, look, and listen. And this is where, before you even begin to eat, and maybe even before you choose what to eat, you're going to use that mindful eating cycle. And the first question you want to ask yourself is, am I even hungry? So if not, well, hopefully then you will not eat. But then if you are, you're going to ask yourself, well, what am I eating? What do I want to eat? Again, what will you be doing after you eat? Since we eat for so many other reasons besides hunger, and we rely on a lot of external cues to tell us if we're full, you need to maybe relearn your hunger cues. I like to think of it as a lot of us have broken gas gauges. We haven't really used our hunger fullness cues, and so we're not really in tune with them. And most of us usually only have 3 internal levels right now. Either we're starving, we could eat more, or we're stuffed. So it's going to take you some mindfulness and practice to learn your internal cues of hunger and fullness. Now, the scale I have here, again, is from the book Eat What You Love, Love What You Eat by Dr. May. And there's other ones out here, but and it doesn't really matter. I've seen scales from 1 to 7. This one, again, is 1 to 10, and we'll just run through it. So 1 being the greatest level of hunger, 10 being the greatest level of fullness. In 1, you're too hungry to care about what you eat, and it's a very high risk time for overeating. If you're starving, that's when you feel like you need to eat right now. When you're hungry, then eating is pleasurable. Then you might be able to wait a little longer, but this is where you're going to feel those hunger pains, and you're noticing about food. When you're satisfied, you are content and comfortable. You're not hungry, you're not full. So when you're full, you can feel the food in your stomach. If you're very full, your stomach is stretched. You might even get to where you're feeling sleepy and sluggish. Uncomfortable is where your stomach is too full and you wish you hadn't eaten so much. If you're stuffed, your clothes are feeling tight and you might need to undo that belt buckle. And sick is, well, if you get to there, sometimes you might be so full that your food may start to reflux up your throat. Now, there's Three main faulty patterns in regard to this hunger fullness scale that I want you to be aware of. The first faulty pattern is waiting too long to eat. So if you are ignoring your signals, you're not paying attention, you're waiting until you're starving, it's again very difficult for you to control your food choices and the amount that you're eating. The second pattern is waiting too long to stop. Maybe this is because you grew up in the Clean Your Plate Club, or again, because food is all around us and it looks good, it tastes good, we want it, so we're eating when we're not even hungry, so we don't even realize that we're full. Or again, if you are eating until all the food is gone or the TV program is over, again, this is you more than likely wait too long to stop eating. So we'll talk about slowing down to eat so you can listen to your body's signals. And the third faulty pattern is eating when you are not hungry. And again, this can also be because we're driven by those external cues or even, again, our internal feelings. So our overabundance of food can lead to several of those faulty patterns. Okay, I had some questions earlier about food and mood, and we did have a webinar last month about food and mood. So those of you who have missed it, you might want to go back and catch the recording of that. And indeed, many of us may tend to eat based on our mood. And a mood can be a good mood or a bad mood. And maybe you think about mood and eating because of mood as when you're sad or lonely or bored. But actually, if you're in a happy mood, a lot of times that can lead to mindless eating as well, as when we reward ourselves for something. So you know that food doesn't have magical properties, so stop eating as if it did. So instead of eating based on your mood, the best thing is to get your mood first. Again, I won't go in too much detail, but if people in bad moods, sad moods, or negative moods tend to make poorer food choices, and you can change that instead of focusing on something other than your present problems, the present pain, your present mood. And that will reduce your consumption of indulgent foods, because when you have more positive emotions, people tend to be able to think more about the future, and you will think more about the future health benefits of the food choices you make, which will tend to help you to make healthier food choices. So if you are eating for something other than hunger, you won't know when to stop eating. So again, when you eat because of your mood, it's very difficult to stop because, again, your hunger cues are going to be all off. So again, since food can't fix the problem, you want to get to the root cause of the problem, or maybe learn some stress management techniques or coping skills in order to deal with that, so you're not using food. But what if those cravings do come? Then what do you do? Well, again, I'm all about prevention, so the best thing would be to prevent the cravings. So let's talk about that first. Well, you can prevent craving, again, by eating regular balanced meals, not waiting too long to eat. Interestingly, if you don't get enough sleep, that can lead more to cravings. So when you're tired, you're more likely to seek really indulgent food or overeat. And then becoming more active. People who exercise regularly can control their appetites. There are certain chemicals that can trigger cravings as well, so be aware of that. But what happens again when you have the craving? What do you do? Well, the first thing is you want to acknowledge you're having a craving. And this is before, again, you got to stop and pause, go through that mindful eating cycle and ask yourself, am I really hungry? The second thing is, if you're not hungry and you still have that craving, try and distract yourself. In the Tool of Mindful Eating Marathon by Dr. L. Beers, She points out that research shows that visual spatial tasks are the best distractors. So these include things like puzzles, painting, woodworking, cross-stitching. And I remember my mother used to crochet. So if you're eating for other than hunger, no amount of food is going to satisfy that craving because the craving isn't about food. Now, sometimes our hunger signals get messed up because your thirst signal and your hunger signals in your brain are very close together. And so you might want to also try drinking some water and seeing if that helps. When you're distracting yourself, again, if this is new to you, try starting with distracting yourself for just a few minutes. See if you can increase it to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and see if, again, you can get those cravings to go away. So empower yourself to change, saying, I can do this. Or if there's a particular food you're craving, don't tell yourself, oh, I can't have that or I shouldn't have it. Instead, tell yourself, I choose not to have this. And remember your intentions for eating. It's to fuel, nourish, heal. Do you want better health, wellness? Do you want better energy? So not only can we become, again, more in tune with ourselves and what's going on inside of our minds and our bodies, but you can also eat more mindfully by managing your environment. The one question that I dread, and a lot of mothers seem to dread, is what's for dinner? But those of us preparing food for our families can use that to our advantage. How about the next time you're asked, instead of saying, oh, we're having chicken, potatoes, and broccoli, you told them you were having succulent chicken breasts, jazzy baked potatoes, and garden fresh broccoli. The names are going to make the food sound tastier. It's going to taste better. You'll end up enjoying it more, and hopefully then you'll eat less. And you'll make your family think you're the best cook ever. Now, other tips are, it's very important to make your mealtime pleasant and interactive. So this way, if healthy foods are being served, you're going to develop positive associations with those healthier foods. And this is going to make you desire those foods more. And it may even make you change what you desire as a comfort food. When you're serving food, don't have the food on the table. Leave the serving dishes off the table or leave them in the pots even on the stove. Oh boy, wouldn't that be nice? That would really save us some cleanup time. However, the foods you want to eat more of, you want to put on the table. So if you want to eat more vegetables and you want your family to eat more vegetables, well, put them in a pretty bowl and put those on the table and keep everything else off the table. Try and keep your kitchen uncluttered and unchaotic. People who are in cluttered kitchens will eat more. This is even more important if you're already stressed. It tends to promote a feeling of out of control. You might even want to try having soft music and low lights. Also be aware of the company that you're in. We tend to eat toward the norm and the pace of the group. So again, that can work towards your advantage or towards your disadvantage. And finally, serve your food on nice plates, not paper plates. That's also going to make the veggies look more appealing. The size of the plates matter as well, and the size of the glasses that we use. So since research shows you that we rely on visual cues of volume to tell us if we've had enough to eat, you can use that for your advantage. Not only use smaller plates, but try and put a lot of vegetables on that plate and maybe a little less meat and a little less starch as well. And you'll notice that when you use smaller plates, it looks like a lot of food and you're going to feel like you're eating more. Now, it's important to serve foods from all the food groups to get all the nutrients, but too much variety can result in overeating, which is why we might eat more at a buffet or at a potluck. So if you go to such an occasion, put only a few items on a small plate. Small plates means less food, and lack of variety slows down your eating. Now, when you're eating, you want to pay more attention. This is where the mindfulness comes in. Again, Eating slowly is not the only concept of mindful eating, but it is important because research says it takes up to 20 minutes for our bodies to feel full and our brain to get the signal it's full. So if you're gobbling down your food quickly, by the time the brain gets the signal, you're already going to be over full. The faster you eat, also the more you eat. How else can you slow yourself down? Well, again, you're going to be mindful of how your body is feeling. Be mindful of the food you're eating. Notice the flavor, the aroma, and the texture of it. Savor each bite. How do you savor each bite? Well, make sure you're chewing thoroughly. Take smaller bites. Put your fork down between bites. Engage in some conversation, and also take a sip of water and drink between bites as well. How you store your food can also help you to manage your eating environment and help you to be more mindful or eat less or avoid eating mindlessly. You've probably heard the saying, out of sight, out of mind, and so the same is true of food. If you have food on your counters, if it's at your desk, on your coffee table, by the TV, you're going to want to eat it. And it's going to take lots of willpower to avoid it every time you see it. So it works against you because if you see it, you know it's there, you're going to think about it more. So again, for compulsive thinkers, this is not good. The more you think about it, the more you're likely to eat it. Also, if you're buying your foods in bulk, you're more likely to overeat them. And you're also more likely to eat them all up in the first week. So in order to really make those bulk purchases pay off, you want to try and divide them up into smaller packages, at least maybe 2 packages, so you have some in the front of your pantry or cabinet and putting some away in the back. So the more convenient the food is located, the easier it is to eat, and the more you're likely to eat. In this one study that they did at the Food and Brand Lab, just moving the candy dish further away resulted in people eating less. If this even applies to children, another study that was conducted at the Food and Brand Lab, if the children saw a bigger bag of snacks still left on the counter at snack time, they were more likely to ask for more. So when you serve your foods, after you serve your snacks, put the bag away. Be aware that most of the people who eat while watching TV aren't even hungry. So set your intentions for watching TV and just enjoy the show. Who says we have to have popcorn when there's a movie? You probably won't enjoy the food if you aren't paying attention to it anyway. I was reading, Dr. Wansing's book on eating mindlessly, and they did a study too where they gave moviegoers stale popcorn, and they still ate it. You're also going to eat less if there's something that causes you to pause and think before eating more. So again, if a big package of food is wrapped into smaller cellophane wrappers, that can be helpful, or individually wrapped foods. Another thing that is beneficial is if you're eating nuts, if you can get peanuts in the shell or pistachios in the shell. When you see the pile of empty shells, it makes you more aware of how much that you've eaten. Another technique you can use is called the can approach. So the can approach is convenient, meaning, again, you want to make your healthy foods and beverages the easy, obvious choice. Put them out. You want to see those foods. Again, the ones that aren't, you want to make them not convenient. You want to make the healthy foods look attractive and appealing so that you'll want to eat them. And you want to make them normal, meaning that healthy foods are the default. So you want to have more healthier foods, or the foods you want to be eating in your house than the other ones. So here, You can change how you eat by changing your environment. So at home, again, what you might want to do is if you're wanting to eat more vegetables, well, cut up some vegetables, have them on a tray, and put them in the center of the refrigerator. I don't know why they put the veggie crispers down at the bottom. It's out of sight, out of mind. We're not going to think about them. But if they're right there when you open your refrigerator, again, you're more likely to make that your first choice, because what you see first is more likely to what you're going to pick to eat. Planning ahead is very important. So this will set you up to succeed. The first thing you want to do, again, is always have foods available to meet your intention. So again, a big part of mindful eating is not only paying attention, but what is your intention? Probably most of us don't purposely start out to thinking, you know what, I just really want to just, eat this junk food so I can harm my body. No, we don't purposely think that. So think about what is your intentions. And then if you're wanting to be healthy and you're wanting to have more energy, then have foods available that are going to meet those needs. That's going to mean that you're going to need to grocery shop so you have those foods available, and make sure you have them either available at your home or wherever it is you're going to be eating. So do you need to carry snacks and lunch with you to work or to school? Do you need to have them in your car when you travel? Again, plan ahead. What activities do you have coming up? Do you have late meetings? Do you need to, again, bring snacks? Do kids have after-school activities? Do you have extracurricular events going on that you can plan around? And again, I really encourage people to use your free time to cook ahead. Cook in bulk and freeze it right away into serving sizes that will meet just one meal of your family. And then you'll have those meals ready for you conveniently in the convenient location. The last technique is going to be watching what you're thinking about. So you want to change that thinking into using positive affirmations. So, if you think it, you'll be it. If you think you can become it, you will. It's going to be important, though, that you don't try to change everything at once. Remember, your eating habits developed over a lifetime. So, again, give yourself some time. It usually takes about 28 days to change one habit. And remember, I said there's over 200 decisions we're making daily. So there's going to be a lot to change. Just start with one thing. Take small steps. You might want to choose one thing that will make the biggest difference, or choose something that's going to be easy for you. And you might not want to worry about a food that you might only eat 2 times a year. Instead, go ahead and look at your common patterns. Again, during this time, try and avoid that all or none thinking. If you made a choice that did not support your goals, be confident that you'll have the opportunity to make a better choice. Again, we don't lose or gain weight or become healthy or unhealthy based on one single food choice. The mantra is a saying that you're going to have and repeat and go back to. And I will, at the end of this, I'll give you a whole list of mantras. Now, this is also from Dr. Michelle May. It is from her blog at amihungry.com. It's from her November 2015 blog. If you want to go back, go to there and read it. But learning to eat mindfully is going to take time, and how much time depends on where you are. There might be some of you listening in who are already mindful eaters, and if that's the case, then you might have difficulty relating to people who are not eating mindfully. But you may have a lot to teach them, and they can learn from you. Maybe you're listening to this in that case because you do want to help some others in your life. For those of you who are totally unaware, again, not to fret, not to worry. changing how you eat, the first step is going to be becoming more aware. And again, it's going to take some time if you haven't been aware. And the caution for you is this may sound too good to be true because maybe you've always been on a diet and, well, you know, if diets didn't work, this is not just another diet or not just really another technique. This is a way to live, a way to think, a way to eat. Now, as you learn to become mindful of each point in the mindful eating cycle, you're going to see areas where you can make changes. Again, remember, even a small change will make a difference in how, what, and how much you eat. And again, this is a very busy slide. So again, you can either go to her website, and I can send you a copy of the slides. If you haven't given me, when you registered for this webinar, if you didn't put your email, go ahead and give me your email so I can make sure that I will send you the slides. Okay, let's see. Let me check the time here. Oh my goodness, it seemed like I took a little bit longer this evening than I did, but I think we'll still have time to go through our mindful eating exercise. So for those of you who have your food, I encourage you or recommend getting a piece of chocolate. Go ahead and get that now. If those of you who don't have food in by you, maybe you can run and get something really quick. And I'll give you just a minute. I'm going to look over some of these questions that came in. Okay, so yes, I do want to clarify, yes, that mind, when you're present, then that is really the basic component of mindfulness, and being present when you're eating is, again, the basic component of mindful eating. And let's see. And I think I did address that mood can promote mindless eating. It doesn't have to, but for those of us who have reacted to our moods and used food to comfort ourselves or reward ourselves, then again, that can promote mindless eating. But again, instead, addressing the mood and dealing with the mood and the problem behind the mood can, again, help with that. And again, the first step is becoming aware of that. Even in me doing this presentation, I was not aware of how much mindless eating I actually did. So just being aware of it made me more aware. So, and will do you as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our mindful eating exercise. Now, take your piece of chocolate, and I want you to pick it up and hold it in your hand, and I want you to look at it closely. If it's in a wrapper, leave it in the wrapper. What is the shape of the candy? Maybe it's round, maybe it's square. What color is the wrapper? I want you to think of 3 words to describe it. Now, if it's wrapped up, I want you to unwrap it. And as you're unwrapping it, I want you to listen closely to the crinkling of the foil or the paper. And again, I want you to take a look at it. And again, see, would you use any other words now to describe the food? Next, I want you to bring it up closely to your nose and inhale deeply. I want you to really smell the aroma of the chocolates, or if you have another food. What thoughts are coming to your mind? Does the smell of the chocolate bring some powerful feelings and memories? Now, if any critical thoughts are coming up, if you have any shoulds or can'ts or anything negative, I want you to let go of them. I want you to pretend you're putting them inside a balloon and they're floating away. Because now you've made that decision that you're going to eat it, so now you're going to enjoy it. Now I want you to take the chocolate and put it in your mouth. Let it melt in your mouth. Don't chew it. Or again, Unless some of you have a food that is supposed to be chewed, like a piece of celery or an apple, then go ahead and chew, but chew slowly. As you do, pay attention to the flavor, to the richness, and to the texture. I want you to pay attention to all the sensation in your mouth as it melts and it molds to your mouth. Notice some flavors about the chocolate that maybe you never noticed before. Maybe it's more of a mild milk chocolate. Maybe you have a bowl chocolate. Is it velvety, smooth? Is it creamy, luxurious? Follow the sensations as the chocolate slips down your throat into your stomach. Now, how does your stomach feel? Are you feeling any sense of fullness, or maybe some sense of hunger that is diminishing? Now, this is how you can eat all your food mindfully. It's going to take practice. But I'm sure you're going to enjoy not only your chocolate, but all your food more than if you just mindlessly gobble it down. Okay. If you want to know more and work more on mindful eating, there's lots of books, workbooks out there. I mentioned a lot about Dr. Michelle May, and her site is down at the bottom, amihungry.com. I mentioned the next one up, Dr. Susan Albeers. Again, she has lots of publications and she has some tools and apps on her site. I used a lot of Dr. Brian Wansing and the Food Labs research, and he has a book, Mindless Eating, and he also has a new book out called Slim by Design. And again, others there that are available too that I haven't mentioned that you might find useful. The other thing you might want to consider, those of you who have access to a clinical health consultant, is to meet with your clinical health consultant so that she can help you develop tools and technique that are tailored to your mindful or your mindless eating, and that will help you to, again, develop techniques to eat more mindfully, because these are general, but there's going to be ways that are going to be specific that will help you. So again, with mindful eating, it's where you're going to eat with your full attention and you're going to eat with purposeful intention. So attention and intention are the two main concepts. It's not like walking on a tightrope, because with a tightrope, when you're walking on a tightrope, it's very rigid and you better be very careful. Well, the rules are going to be gone with mindful eating. It's going to be more like walking down a trail that you can walk freely and enjoy. There's no more do's and don'ts. You are now free to create a healthier relationship with your food. Now, mindful eating is like running a marathon. It's not like a sprint. So in order to run that marathon, you're going to have to be prepared. It's going to take some time. It might be hard. Sometimes you don't listen to your cravings, and you're going to have to push through to the end. So again, be attentive, intentional, and intuitive to your body, mind, and emotions, and it's going to create a healthier body. Mindful eating is like investing in the stock market. There's going to be ups and downs, but don't give up. Don't react to every down or mistake or mindless eating that you do. Just use it to evaluate and learn, and guess what? You'll be back on track and eating mindfully again. So my favorite, to conclude, my favorite mantra is by Benjamin Franklin. One should eat to live, not live to eat. If you need more eating tips, health tips, you can find True Health Diagnostics on all the social media sites. If you want to email me, if you have a question that you don't want to ask tonight, or if you have a concern, you can contact me at tclose@truehealthdiag.com. And I will be happy to take any questions. We have a few minutes, but if you do have questions, please do stay on and I will make sure I address the questions. And while I am waiting for questions to come in, I will go ahead and go back to those mantras so you can take a look at. But again, I will go ahead and email you the slides so you will have those. And again, there are also more mantras on Susan Albier's site, eatingmindfully.com.